in our conversations with Cracker WV. This is part 6 on the Illuminati. So we're going to look at who the Illuminati really are. You might be surprised what you will discover. Let's begin. Cracker WV. They're good at hiding who they really are. Most of the people we see in the public eye and on the media, even the so-called and mostly mentioned 13 families, are a front. They are not the true Illuminati. They are just silly henchmen. The ones behind this garbage aren't going to expose themselves if they can help it. They pay people to do their bidding, and the higher the tier front or associate families, the higher the pay scale. They are the hierarchy of the satanic corporate collective running the world. Satan is not an entity or really a demon. It's an idea. The idea is that these people will set themselves above the Most High and convince the people they are our gods. That's the objective, to get our worship. Satan is the entire collective of the true Illuminati families. They're henchmen, corporate, political, media, scientific, medical, industrial, food, governments, countries, weapons contractors, banks, monetary systems, stocks, investments, education, universities, pretty much anything involving the use of money. So the ones that most people are familiar with are not the real Illuminati families. They are just public fronts to the hidden hand. Here we have Karl Marx, Napoleon, Stalin, Washington, Lenin, Rothschild, and Lafayette, all doing the hidden hand, all connected. The real Illuminati are actually two sets of 13 families that go much farther back than the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, or the rest of the known ones. But first, let's look at the known front ones and some of their affiliations, associations with hoaxes, and agendas being pushed. Rockefeller, banking, politics, social engineering. Rockefeller is a moniker. It actually stands for Ra-Ka-Phara, which literally translate in Egyptian to the priests born of Ra. The priests, Phara, born to Ka, Ra, sun god Ra. Just as Rothschild, Ra's childs, is quite evident, and also Roth, red, shield, which is the shield of blood, aka anti-Semitism, these asshats use against anyone accusing them of crimes. The shield of blood that Rothschild paid Hitler to make for him. Sympathy to hide crime. And here they are together. A Rockefeller and a Rothschild. The Rockefeller's real last name is Livingston, just as the Rothschild's last name is Bauer. Rosette. Rockefeller. Livingston is Livingstone, just like Rockefeller. Stone, rock, feller of rock. The rock or stone represents the stone masons. Here we have David Rockefeller on the cover of Newsweek in 1967, around when the Twin Towers were being built. Notice the hands on his watch are on 9/11. Jay-Z is a product of the Rockefellers. His clothing line is named after them. And him and his wife Beyonce do the diamond hand sign every chance they get. Diamond is 33 in numerology and represents Lucifer. Diamond, Lucifer, falling from heaven. Remember, Rockefeller is the one that messed with our educational system. For many reasons. One, to push evolution and ball Earth, but also to make children good little slaves, get them ready for the workforce, not to make them independent thinkers. From the school prison to the work prison. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I am proud of it. David Rockefeller. Asshat. And don't forget, he was a banker, a moneylender. And one-time vice president of the America Corporation, Nelson Rockefeller. Notice the placing of the M behind his head. M is for Mason, the 13 Illuminati families, and also it is making the devil's horns. Rothschild, banking, social engineering. Rothschild, Bauer. Bauer means farmer in German, and the farmer was Cain, as in Cain and Abel. Also Cain as in Tubal-Cain, son of Cain, the one that performed metallurgy, the craft of the Masons, like in their secret symbol, 2 balls and a cane. David de Rothschild has said he is a direct descendant of Nimrod. From a passage given to me by one of my commenters named Stanley, we find an interesting connection. From Alexander Hislop's 2 Babylons, the rites of Osiris and Bacchus are the same. Those of Isis and Ceres exactly resemble each other, except in name. Now, as if to identify Bacchus with Nimrod, the leopard tamer, leopards were employed to draw his car. He himself was represented as clothed with a leopard's skin. His priests were attired in the same manner, or when a leopard's skin was dispensed with, the spotted skin of a fawn was used as a priestly robe in its stead. This very custom of wearing the spotted fawn skin seems to have been imported into Greece originally from Assyria, where a spotted fawn was a sacred emblem, as we learn from the Nineveh sculptures, for there we find a divinity bearing a spotted fawn or spotted fallow deer in his arm as a symbol of some mysterious import. The origin of the importance attached to the spotted fawn and its skin had evidently come thus. When Nimrod, as the leopard tamer, began to be clothed in the leopard skin as a trophy of his skill, his spotted dress and appearance must have impressed the imaginations of those who saw him, and he came to be called not only the subduer of the spotted one, for such is the precise meaning of Nimr, the name of the leopard, but to be called the spotted one himself. We have distinct evidence to this effect borne by Damasius, who tells us that the Babylonians called the only son of the great goddess mother Momis, or Mumis, thus. Now Momis, or Mumis, in Chaldee, like Nimr, signified the spotted one. Thus, then, it became easy to represent Nimrod by the symbol of the spotted fawn, and especially in Greece, and wherever a pronunciation akin to that of Greece prevailed. The name of Nimrod, as known to the Greeks, was Nimrod. The name of the fawn, as the spotted one, in Greece, was Nibros, and thus nothing could be more natural than that Nibros, the spotted fawn, should become a synonym for Nimrod himself. When, therefore, the Bacchus of Greece was symbolized by the Nibros, or spotted fawn, as we shall find he was symbolized, what could be the design but just covertly to identify him with Nimrod? James 1:27. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. So David is associating himself here as Nimrod, the spotted one, against God. The Rothschilds are a Jewish banking dynasty that cleverly found ways for all the royalty of Europe to have to borrow money from them to fund their wars, like Shylock in The Merchant of Venice, but on steroids. They became indebted to the Rothschilds. They are money lenders. Rothschild's sons set up their banking branches in the most prominent European cities: Amschel in Frankfurt, Germany, Solomon in Vienna, Austria, Nathan in London, England, Kalman in Naples, Italy, and Jacob in Paris, France. Banking bad, very bad. Cracker WV. A little more on the Rockefeller and Rothschild background. This goes all the way back to Genesis 19 in the Bible, at the point when Lot's daughters committed an act of incest to preserve their father's seed. It's where most of this began. We even see the same thing today with the families reproducing amongst themselves through acts of incest. Lot's daughters produced the bloodlines of Ammon, Ra, Illuminati, and Moab, or the Moabites, brotherhood of Saturnalia, Black Sun. We see this in the fake names the front families use. Ra's child, Rockefeller, as I explained earlier. We even see it in Obama, which, when switching the letters, makes the word a Moab. The two main pillars of the front publicly exposed families are these two. One controls industry, sciences, controlled information used to control the masses. The other controls politics, banking, monetary assets. For the other hidden families they represent, seems they both consort behind the scenes with the Pallavicini, which link the heavens, or the occult and hidden, and the earth, or the one seen by the public, a conduit between the two. We will mention more on the Pallavicini shortly. Genesis 19. And the firstborn said unto the younger, O father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in, and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow, that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose, and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-ammi. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Moab, Moabites, Pharisees, scribes. Ammon, Ra are interchangeable names. And remember that Moab is an acronym for Mother of All Bombs. Such a lovely name. Now let's look at the others. Rosette. Astor, industry. Astor, John Jacob Astor being the most famous, founder of the Astoria Hotel, which later became known as the Waldorf Astoria, and coincidentally becoming the host location to the U.S. inquiries into the sinking of the RMS Titanic, on which Colonel Astor died. John was also a great-grandson of Senator John Armstrong and Alida Livingston. Remember, the Rockefellers are really Livingstons. He went by the name Jack. His ungainly appearance and the perception that he was an aimless dilettante led one newspaper to give him the name Jackass Tor. Did the Titanic actually sink? Well, first off, you need to study icebergs and see if they are real. And two, the Jews are notoriously cheap, so they wouldn't sink one of their ships. They would just get you to think they sunk one of their ships and use said ship under a different name thereafter. Just like the planes on 9/11, no planes were actually crashed. They just renamed the planes that were supposedly destroyed and kept using them. Just like fluoride. Fluoride is a waste product of aluminum mining. Aluminum, Illuminati. It was considered a toxic waste, and instead of paying to have it removed, they made a campaign to say it's good for you and sold it to you in toothpaste. So did the Titanic really sink? I would say no way. Bundy, social programming. Bundy, Ted Bundy, notorious serial killer. Note, most serial killers are fronts for Satanists who kill for sacrifices or to take someone out that is their adversary in some way. They kill a few to hide the crime of the one they need taken out. Watch my Serial Killers Decoded for more on this. Lots of questionable items in this case. The role of Anne Rule, the personality of Bundy, his past, his having traits of someone that was MK'd, and even this supposed quote from Bundy. Excuse me. We serial killers are your sons, we are your husbands, we are everywhere, and there will be more of your children dead tomorrow. Stage program of fear? Most likely. Staged program of fear. Fake. And we have the TV show Married with Children with the Bundy family. More propaganda to degenerate the morals of the family. It's getting worse and worse, right? We had Archie Bunker, then them. Now we have like the cartoon, The Family Guy. It's really bad. Collins, social programming. Collins, Joan and Jackie Collins, Witch Sisters. Jackie is the writer and Joan is the actress. Notice the leopard skin on Jackie and the spots on Joan. Just like mentioned earlier, the leopard tamer, the subduer of the spotted one, a connection to David Rothschild and Nimrod. James 1:27. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. In addition, the spots are used in MK Ultra programming. It looks like Joan is doing an M hand sign as well here for the 13 families. Phil Collins, lead singer of the band Genesis, Genes of Isis, and his daughter Lily Collins posing here. Notice the double mirror behind them. Mirrors are used in MK programming, a symbol for splitting the mind, and it is also a symbol of duality. DuPont, science. DuPont, we have the infamous John DuPont, who murdered a member of the wrestling team he sponsored. Notice the team was called Team Foxcatcher. Fox, of course, is 666 in numerology, the number of the beast. And the DuPonts are famous for their chemical company. Remember, Chem, C-H-E-M, is Chem, K-H-E-M, and was the ancient name of Egypt. And Chem means black, and is the name of the black nobility, which are the Jewish royal families of Europe, including Queen Elizabeth. And it says here, the miracles of science, promoting scientism, having man do the miracles instead of God. DuPont is involved in GMO crops and pesticides as well. Is that what God intended? No. Freeman, social programming. Freeman, free man. Morgan Freeman, in a 2012 interview with The Wrap, Freeman was asked if he considered himself atheist or agnostic. He replied, "It's a hard question because, as I said at the start, I think we invented God. So if I believe in God, and I do, it's because I think I'm God." That is just what Satanism preaches, taking God out of the picture and turning man into God. Notice the Star of David behind Morgan, and also the wheel with 8 spokes, like the 8-pointed star. The 8-pointed star represents the real Illuminati families you will see shortly. 8 as in the octopus. It shows they are blue blood. Kennedy, politics. Kennedy, president of the America Corporation, John F. Kennedy, whose father, Joseph P. Kennedy, got rich during Prohibition by selling bootleg alcohol from overseas. He was appointed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt to be the first chairman of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and later directed the Maritime Commission, maritime law. The death of John F. Kennedy, Jr. His father was killed in the killing of the king ritual, and his son appears to be part 2 of this ritual. Similar to the killing of Diana, killing of the queen ritual. The killing of the ones that the people loved to cause them to lose faith in the system. They kill a few of their own if it forwards their agenda. Onassis, shipping industry. Onassis, Jackie Kennedy Onassis, subsequently married Aristotle Onassis, a Greek shipping tycoon. A prize monarch receives a new handler. Lee, industry, social programming. Lee Ka-shing is a Hong Kong business magnate, investor, and philanthropist. According to Forbes magazine, as of June 2017, Lee is the second richest person in Asia and the 18th richest person in the world, with an estimated net worth of US $32.7 billion. Cashing, Mr. Cash, Johnny Cash of the East. worships the moon eye, money. And another stage death, Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee, similar to the father and son, tragic deaths in John Kennedy and John Kennedy Jr. So a similar killing of the king ritual, with Kennedy being of the West and Lee being of the East. Bruce supposedly died from an allergic reaction to medication at 32 years old, and Brandon from an accidental bullet placed in a prop gun while filming The Crow. He was 28 years old. Reynolds, industry, social programming. Reynolds, Debbie Reynolds, actress, Broadway performer, mother of Carrie Fisher, both MK Ultra victims. Here she is with her husband, the Jewish Eddie Fisher, just before he had an affair with Elizabeth Taylor. Reynolds Aluminum, Illuminati. Remember, one of the waste products of aluminum manufacturing was fluoride. So who is possibly one of the biggest distributors of fluoride? And not only do they make money off of their toxic waste, they make us collect all of their cans and bottles for them and return them. It doesn't save any money, it just makes us the mules. They charge the amount for each bottle when you pay for it at the store. Then you get reimbursed when you bring it to the recyclers. How clever of them. Always get us to be the slaves. Man riding a horse holding a sword with a serpent underfoot. Reminds me of the Italian car company Alfa Romeo. Alfa Rome. And their logo, a cross, a sword, man being eaten by serpent. Russell, social programming, religion. Russell, Charles Taze Russell, a Mason and founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I am very glad to have this particular opportunity of saying a word about some of the things in which we agree with our Masonic friends, because we are speaking in a building dedicated to Masonry, and we also are Masons. I am a Freemason. Russell. For being the head of a religion, Charles doesn't seem to know his Bible too well. James 5:12 states, "But above all, my brethren, do not swear, either by heaven or by earth, or with any other oath. But your yes is to be yes, and your no, no, so that you may not fall under judgment." You can't be a Mason and a Christian too, but apparently you can be if you are an Illuminati front family. Van Dyne, industry, social programming. Van Dyne founded a chapter of Planned Parenthood, and the Reynolds were big contributors. A clever way to condone child sacrifice, and big business behind the scenes, selling parts from the fetuses. You can't get more satanic than that. In the movie Elysium, the main character Max works at Armadyne Corp. Notice how similar it is to Cyberdyne, the name of the company in the Terminator movies that made the machines that destroyed the Earth. But not only that, if you run a Google search, you will also find Dyne Corp, a private military company used by big corporations and governments, which might have worked in Vietnam, among other places. All these corporations, fictitious and real, share a common name with the Van Dyne family. What are the chances? And Janet Van Dyne is one of the original characters in the Marvel comic book series. She is the Avenger called the Wasp. Wasp is also an insect associated with the bee. The bee is a symbol of the Merovingians. Cracker WV. They're all fake names, corporate fiction. The real 13 families are the monarchy of the past. They are the two pillars of Freemasonry, the Brotherhood of Saturnalia, or the Dark Sun, and the Illuminati Grey Masters. The Illuminati families are marked by an obelisk. The Moab, Saturn families are represented by fountains. That is the symbol they use, and it works like this. The obelisks represent the male energy of these families. The fountains, for the other set of families, represent the female. The fountains of gestation and creation of a false paradigm. We are born of the water, and the water fountain is representative of maritime law, or the law of the sea czar, the pirate's code, skull and bones. Genesis 3:22. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Isis was the mother of the waters and goddess of fertility. So the fountains represent the vagina of Isis, genes of Isis like Genesis, and the obelisk, the penis. The fountain, maritime law. The penis is canon law. Thus why the Vaticano family is part of the Illuminati, who are the male energy. One rules the waters. One rules the lands. Saturn is the female energy, vagina. Just like Saturn itself has a ring around it and even looks like a vagina. The planet, Saturn itself, is a head popping out of a vagina, the rings, ready for capitalization by a system of earthly rule and commercial trade through corporate fiction, born into a controlled system and false paradigm. Here's an actual photo of Saturn, not a CGI version that NASA puts out, taken with the Nikon P900. Saturnalia Brotherhood, the real 13 Zoroastrian bloodlines. So let's take a look at these Saturn families, their fountains, their areas of dominance, and a few interesting facts about each. Borgia, Cesare Borgia, Cesare, Caesar, Czar of the Sea. Did he promote maritime law, like Mary, Mother Jesus? And his first name, Cesare, is the same as Julius Caesar's last name. Borgia's father was Pope Alexander VI from 1492 until his death in 1503. So he was Pope when Columbus, of another Illuminati family, Colonna, landed in the Americas. Cesare Borgia, of the House of Borgia, is the effeminate man who is depicted as Jesus, as a long-haired feminine man, which is a complete lie. His sister, Lucretia, was the model for Mary that we see in the modern Catholic churches. Lucretia, lucrative, prophet, Lucifer. Her left breast is exposed, showing her allegiance to the left-hand path and Lucifer, and she is looking to the left. She has a band of laurel leaves upon her head, and a black hole sun at her third eye. They were famous for using poison to kill their enemies. Aren't we getting poisoned today as well? Through fluoride in our drinking water and barium and aluminum ball in our skies? Breakspear. We couldn't find a photo of their fountain, but have some other interesting information. Breakspear. This family also had a pope, an earlier one. Pope Adrian IV, born Nicholas Breakspear, was pope from 1154 to 1159 AD. Breakspear in Latin is Lancia Rota, or Lancelot. Lancelot being one of King Arthur's knights. From Arturius Rex it states, Melgwyn was a complex character to say the least. He was reputed to be the largest man in all Britain and a very powerful warrior, and he rose against his uncle who was king in North Wales. Later he repented and entered a monastery in the kingdom of King Arthur in South Wales. Here he became involved in homosexuality, mixing with young men, and later he left to go north again and claim the Gwynedd kingdom. He is reputed to have murdered his wife, and then he murdered his own nephew, so that he could marry his nephew's widow. The mind of the mighty Melgwyn is shown by his keeping 24 bards at this court, when all other kings traditionally kept only 12 to sing their praises. A great deal is known of this strangely capricious king, much of it to do with his constantly changing attitude to the church and the saints and bishops. So Lancelot was not a good guy, as legend makes him out to be. So fitting he was a Breakspear. Even Shakespeare was a Breakspear. What's a shaken spear or a broken spear? Lightning. Like lightning from heaven, Lucifer. Note that Shakespeare was actually a group of Rosicrucians who penned the writings, not a single man, but using the name Shakespeare would show the most prominent influence. Mark Breakspear did visual effects under Rainmaker UK for Dan Brown's Angel and Demons. Somalia. We don't have a picture of the Somalia fountain, but we do have a connection with Borgia and Breakspear. Somalia had a cardinal in the ranks. Giulio Maria della Somalia was an Italian cardinal from 1744 to 1830 under Pope Leo XIII. He's in Masonic orange. Orsini. Here we have the fountain at the Orsini estate. From the wiki, members of the Orsini include 3 popes, Celestine III, Nicholas III, and Benedict the 13th, as well as 34 cardinals and numerous condottieri, mercenaries, and other significant political and religious figures. The Orsini carried on a political feud with the Colonna family, another of the Saturn Brotherhood, for centuries in Rome, until it was stopped by papal bull in 1511. In 1571, the chiefs of both families married the nieces of Pope Sixtus V. Conti family fountain. The Conti family included 4 cardinals and 3 popes, being Pope Innocent III, Pope Gregory IX, and Pope Innocent XIII. Chigi family fountain. Agostino Chigi was the most famous member of the family during the Renaissance. He became an immensely rich banker and built the palace and gardens afterwards, known as the Farnesina. decorated by Raphael, and was noted for the splendor of his entertainments. Cardinal Fabio Chigi, on being elected Pope as Alexander VII at the conclave of 1655, conferred the Roman patriciate on his family. 6 mountains and a star, supposed to be for their mining industry. 8-pointed star, like the octopus, blue-blooded, as seen on their family crest. Here we can see from the chart, blue blood octopus. Strange that the penis worm is purple. The royals are called the blue bloods, and they are Jewish. Are all these real Illuminati families blue bloods? Is this related to Rh negative blood? Colonna. Colonna. Colonization. Colonization. Like the 13 colonies. Christopher Columbus was of the family Colonna. Cologne, Panama, named after his family. Notice he's doing the M hand sign. M is 13 in numerology, so showing his allegiance to the 13 families of the Saturnalia Brotherhood. And also he discovered the Americas in 1492. We know that they knew that the land was there since almost 1,000 years previous to this date. King Arthur journeyed there in the late 400s AD. And what's interesting is, remember that Breakspear means Lancelot? So that Saturnalia family definitely knew about King Arthur and his journeys. Colognes. Were they named after this family? They originated in Cologne, Germany, a town most likely named after this family as well. Similar to Champagne, being named after the Champagne family. From left to right, Colonna family members, from left to right, Colonna family members in the first picture. Second one is Marcantonio's wife, Felice Orsini, and mother Giovanna de Aragona in some sort of festival honoring their family. Fountain in Piazza Colonna. So they have a fountain too. And could the names Collins, one of the front families, be from Colonna too? I would put my money on it. Cologne, right? Collins, Colonna. Same family. And remember when I mentioned Phil and Lily Collins earlier? Lily is a Delta programmed MK, whereas most Hollywood are betas. Deltas are of a higher echelon and get to wear Kelly green. Notice Lily Collins here in the Kelly green. She is doing the M hand sign, M for Mason, but more importantly, M for the 13 families, saying she is of the bloodline. Which one? The Colonna. And one last Colonna connection we can't forget. We have Colon, right, in Colonna. And these families worship Anu, the god of the anus. They invert everything. It is their all-seeing eye, basically. That's why we see all the Hollywood programming to get us fixated on the behind, trying to steer humanity into worshiping their God without them knowing it. Farnese, from the wiki. Giulia Farnese was mistress to Rodrigo Borgia, known as Pope Alexander VI, and the sister of Pope Paul III. She was known as Giulia la Bella, meaning Julia the Beautiful in Italian. On 21 May 1489, she married Orsini in Rome. The signing of the marriage contract had taken place the previous day, But by November 1493, so just a few months later, Julia was living with the Pope's daughter, Lucretia Borgia, in a recently built palace next to the Vatican, from where the Pope could easily make his clandestine visits. The affair was widely rumored among gossips of the time, and Julia was referred to as the Pope's whore, or sarcastically, as the bride of Christ. Julia and Lucretia became close friends. So who absolves the Pope from his sin, right? He's supposed to be the father, right? The most holy man on earth. Can anyone see the hypocrisy? And can we see how close all these families were even back then? A Farnese marries an Orsini and has an affair with a Borgia, while a Colonna discovers the new world that the Breakspears obviously already knew about. Notice Julia, painted with unicorns. Unicorns are a symbol for Lucifer. And here is a Farnese fountain. Notice the fleur de lis at the top, a symbol of the Merovingians. Medici. Medicis were a prominent banking family and in the textile industry. The Medici also produced 3 popes, Pope Leo X, Pope Clement VII, and Pope Leo XI, as well as 2 regent queens of France, Catherine de' Medici and Marie de' Medici. Here's Grand Duke Cosmino III. Notice the fleur de lis on his staff, Merovingian bloodline. And he's a beauty, this one. And the Medici fountain. Medici. Medici. Medicine. Take your medicine. Take your poison. Connected to Big Pharma. Gaetani or Caetani. During the 14th and 15th centuries, their feuds with the Colonna caused frequent disturbances in Rome and the Campagna, sometimes amounting to civil war. Reminds me of the Hatfields and McCoys, or better yet, the Montagues and Capulets. Were these the real Shakespeare, Breakspeare was writing about, the real families? They produced 2 popes, Pope Gelasius II and Pope Boniface VIII. This fountain is at Caetani Palace. The heading on this photo said Caetani crime family. It shows Don Rofredo Gaetani de Aragona de Lorenzana Lovatelli, who apparently faked his death and has been hiding out in Venice and may be in Switzerland today. Interesting that he is so close to the Trumps. Pamphili. The peak of Pamphili power came with the election of Giovanni Battista Pamphili as Pope Innocent X. Like the reign of his predecessor, Pope Urban VIII, Innocent X's rule was littered with examples of nepotism. Members of the Pamphili family members did exceptionally well from the Innocent X papacy. Yes, nepotism, that is the word of the day, isn't it? Nepotism is defined as the practice of those with power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs. A great example of this today is Trump's daughter Ivanka, as Trump's presidential assistant, and her husband, Jared Kushner, as a senior advisor. And here's a Pamphili fountain. Producer Francesco Pamphili, third from left, working in the Italian film industry, it appears. Este. Estee Lauder, right? I wonder if they're part of Estee Lauder, probably. From the wiki, the elder branch of the House of Este included the Dukes of Brunswick and Lüneburg and produced Britain's Hanoverian monarchs and one emperor of Russia, Ivan VI. The younger branch of the House of Este included rulers of Ferrara and of Modena and Reggio. So this family produced kings and queens of Ireland, France, and Great Britain, ending in Queen Victoria. And the elder branch of the House of Este, the House of Guelph, was historically rendered as Guelph. We'll mention the Guelph again shortly. Their motto is, "The devil is tireless," and their seal is a bird of prey, an eagle. So they never tire of preying on others. With the backing of the devil wears Prada comes to mind. And remember Nelson Rockefeller with the devil's horns behind him on the Time cover. Here's Queen Victoria and her family of Estes. Aldobrandini, again from the wiki. The Aldobrandini are an Italian noble family from Florence with close ties to the Vatican. Its Roman fortunes were made when Ippolito Aldobrandini became pope under the name Pope Clement VIII. He arranged the marriage that linked the Aldobrandini with the Roman family of Pamphili. Additionally, they were also linked to marriage alliances with the Farnese when Ranuccio I, Duke of Parma, married Margherita Aldobrandini, and Borghese, with Olympia Aldobrandini marrying Paolo Borghese. And here's their fountain. And here we notice in their garden the 8-pointed star on the post and in the hedgework. And on their family crest, 6 8-pointed stars. For 6 mountains like the Chigi family, there are 7 hills of Rome, 7 Conti. Remember the Conti family? 7 continents. Which mountains are they referring to? The Illuminati Grey Masters. So whereas the Saturnalia Brotherhood has the fountains, the Illuminati Grey Masters have the obelisks. From the website The Compass, we get some interesting info on the obelisks. The article starts out, when you go to Rome, you expect to see churches, shrines, catacombs, and, if you're lucky, Pope Francis. You probably don't expect to see Egyptian obelisks. There are 13 Egyptian obelisks in Rome, towering 4-sided columns of stone rising into the sky and capped with pyramids. 8 of Rome's obelisks are from ancient Egypt. 5 are from ancient Roman times and were commissioned in Egypt. 13 obelisks for 13 Illuminati families. Mateiano. The article continues, 2 obelisks of Rome seem to have no papal ties. The Mateiano, a twin of the Macuteo, and assembled from fragments of Via Celimontana. Agonalis, and the Agonalis in the Piazza Navona. It was commissioned by the Emperor Domitian in the 1st century. Flaminio. It continues, Pope Sixtus V had yet another obelisk, this one dating to the pharaoh Ramses and the 13th century BC, erected in Rome's Piazza del Popolo. This Flaminio obelisk, also came to Rome by order of Caesar Augustus in 10 BC and was placed in the Circus Maximus. It was discovered with the Lateran obelisk and repaired by order of Sixtus V. It is topped with his mountains and star. There we have the 8-pointed star and mountains again. I would say there would be 6 mountains. Vaticano. Continuing, this 134.5 feet obelisk of red granite stands in the center of St. Peter's Square. It came from Heliopolis, Cairo, Egypt. It lacks hieroglyphics, so it is not certain which pharaoh commissioned it. It was brought to Rome by the Emperor Caligula in 40 AD and erected in the Vatican Circus, the Circus of Nero. A special ship was built just to move the obelisk, and this vessel was sunk in the Tiber to form the left pier of Claudius's harbor. Nero's circus was where many Christians were martyred, including St. Peter. Legends say that the Vatican obelisk has such a prominent place is that it witnessed the death of the first pope. The Vatican obelisk is the only Roman obelisk that has never fallen. Under orders of Pope Sixtus V, it was moved in 1586. The work started in 1585 and took until September 10, 1586. The final lifting of the obelisk into place was done in 52 stages, all on one day, under the direction of the architect Domenico Fontana. When first brought to Rome, the obelisk was topped with a golden orb. This was said to hold the ashes of Julius Caesar. After Fontana moved the Vatican obelisk, it became part of a giant sundial, which marks the summer and winter solstices and the time. Its shadow moves through the signs of the zodiac that rest in cobbles of Vatican Square. A granite strip that runs from the obelisk toward the papal apartments and across one of the fountains in the square acts as the meridian, a line that indicates when the sun has reached true or solar noon and is at its highest point in the sky. Solare. In 1792, Pius VI also ordered the erection of the Solare obelisk, which also originally came from Heliopolis by order of Caesar Augustus. The erection of the penis? Lateranenses. More from the article. This is the largest obelisk from ancient Egypt existing in the world. It weighs 455 tons and stands 151 feet, including its pedestal. It originally stood at the temple of Amun in Karnak. It was moved to Alexandria and then to Rome by Constantius II, son of Constantine the Great, in 357 AD. The obelisk was erected at the Circus Maximus, but eventually fell into ruins and was buried. It was found broken in 3 pieces in 1587. It was repaired and erected by St. John Lateran in 1588 by order of Pope Sixtus V. The obelisk contains hieroglyphics that say it was built by the pharaoh Tutmosis III and his grandson Tutmosis IV, dating it to the 15th century BC. Pope Sixtus had the restored obelisk topped with his personal family symbols of lions with pears and 3 mountains topped with a star. This time 3 mountains and a star. I'm sure it's an 8-pointed star. So I wonder why it's 3 mountains and not 6. And still don't know what the 6 mountains represent. A mystery. Minervio. And behind the Pantheon and resting on an elephant pedestal is the Santa Maria sopra Minerva obelisk, placed there in 1667 by Pope Alexander VII. It dates to the 6th century BC. On an elephant is interesting. The elephant is another symbol for Lucifer. Aleph is the first Hebrew letter and stands for Alpha, as in Alpha and Omega. Aleph, the first, the one, like the spotted one. The Un, as in the Universal Church of Rome. Un is also an ancient name for Lucifer. Makuteo. It continues, 2 other Roman obelisks from the time of Ramses II and from a temple of Ra in Heliopolis were placed in their current positions by Pope Clement XI in 1711. The Makuteo in the Piazza del Rotonda next to the Pantheon, which is an ancient Roman temple now dedicated to Mary and all the saints. Dogali, and the Dogali obelisk now located at Baths of Diocletian. Salustiano, and the Salustiano is a small replica of the Flaminio, ordered by the Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century. It was placed on the Spanish steps by Pope Pius VI in 1789. Quirinale. The Esquiline's twin, the Quirinale obelisk, was not erected again until 1786 by Pope Pius VI. Quirinal is also one of the 7 hills of Rome. Pinciano. The Pinciano was commissioned in the 2nd century by Hadrian. It was moved twice, once by Pope Alexander XIV and then in 1822 by Pope Pius VII. Pinciano, Rome. Notice the obelisk, and the old building behind has the 8-pointed star, the octopus, the blue bloods once again. Pallavicini, Cracker WV. And one other family that seems to head them all is the Pallavicini family, maybe the ruling family. That remains to be seen. Pallavicini, Pallas, is Apollo, the destroyer mentioned in Revelation 9:11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Vicini means neighbor. Pallas plus Vicini equals destroyer of neighbors, creators of the false paradigm of dualism and the Hegelian dialectic of divide and conquer. Here's their little penis statue from Egypt. Notice the Pallavicini have both the obelisk and fountain. And lastly, from the article, the shortest of the 3 obelisks near Rome's major basilicas is the 49-footer on the Esquiline Hill behind St. Mary Major. Now topped with a cross, the Esquiline originally was one of a pair of obelisks standing at the mausoleum of Augustus along the Tiber. The 2 fell and were rediscovered in 1527. Pope Sixtus V had this obelisk erected in 1587. The pedestal has his family's lions on it, as does the Vatican obelisk. Lions for the tribe of Judah? And another fountain and obelisk, symbolizing the androgynous one, the Baphomet, Lucifer. And here is the Pallavicini Palace. Notice the double-headed eagle. This is a symbol of the Masons. And in the Roman numbered date beneath, we have XXX111, or 33. So this to me seems to show that they're the head. The 2-headed Janus leads to them. None of the others had this. On the cover of Morals and Dogma, we also have the 2-headed eagle. Ordo ab chao, order out of chaos, is their motto. Notice the Rosicrucians use a double-headed eagle as well. Here they depict a silver and a gold one. Silver for moon, gold for sun, showing their duality. All under Pallavicini? Quite possibly. Silver would be the Saturn Brotherhood, right? And gold would be the Grey Masters. From Comments on BBS Radio mentions the following, and I'll leave the link below. So this is from an article. This is the true power finally. This is the Guelph and the Ghibelline power over mankind. Guelph and Ghibelline defined as: Guelph was a member of the political party in medieval Italy and Germany that supported the sovereignty of the papacy against the German emperors, opposed to the Ghibellines, a member of a secret society in Italy in the early 19th century that opposed foreign rulers and reactionary ideas. So Guelph is papacy and Ghibelline is Holy Roman Empire. G and G, like the G in Freemasonry. Note that the Este family, which is the Hanover bloodline, and black nobility are the Guelph. That'd be Queen Elizabeth. The Cecil family were controlled by the most powerful Jesuit family known as the Pallavicini. Maria Camilla Pallavicini is far more powerful than Queen Elizabeth II. Notice she's posing in front of a fountain. The Queen and Prince Philip are totally subordinate to the papal bloodline. The Breakspear family, with their Jesuit UK headquarters at 114 Mount Street, Westminster, London. Please go and study who funded Elizabeth I, that astronomical amount of money to fight the Spanish. Yes, Pallavicini. The most powerful man right now in the conspiracy over this world is a Roman by the name of Pepe Orsini, of the powerful Roman papal bloodline, the Orsini, also known as Orso, and the ancient Maximus family. There is no one more powerful than this figure who really is the Grey Pope. The papal bloodlines are the secret shadow hierarchy of the Jesuit order, even behind the Black Pope, touted as the number one. Note that the Orsini family is under the Saturnalia Brotherhood. And I couldn't find anything under families when I looked up the obelisk under the Illuminati Grey Masters. So I was thinking maybe they were one and the same. I asked Cracker his thoughts, and this is what he said. There are the two pillars, two different covens, which is a mockery of the 13, Jesus and apostles. They are all linked to Saturn through the black cube or controlled information mindset. Yin and yang, checkerboards, black, white, dualism. While they may not go by the name Illuminati Grey Masters, but they seem to be those two bloodlines stemming from Genesis 19, and they are not in the same coven, although they do work together for total domination. One rules religion and government, religious law. One rules industry and banking, is how it seems to play out. In other words, they serve the same master. They are just different divisions of their master's hierarchy. Actually, second level on the pyramid. Reading about them, you may know more about them than I did. I never got into studying specifics. I just saw the connection to Genesis 19, incest, rule by bloodline, and notice how these families have managed to keep themselves out of the limelight while putting the posers in that people think are the only set of Illuminati families that are known in half-truth-based conspiracy theory, all while still maintaining the idea of dualism, which is their mechanism of divide and conquer in the first place. Here's one other thing. I do not believe Nimrod was the first Mason. It was Cain who built the city. Nimrod was likely just of Cain's bloodline and continued his ancestral rule as another Mason. They both displeased God in the same way. So my comment. So he's probably right. They're just very elusive. Here we have Orcus with his mouth wide open, and on whose upper lip is inscribed, "All thoughts fly." Where to? To hell? Made by Orsini and located in the Park of Monsters below his castle. Remember the Farnese fountain? It had a monster too face, so they really like these hell faces. Orsini married Julia Farnese, and David Rothschild married into the Aldobrandini family by marrying Princess Olympia Aldobrandini, pictured here on their wedding day. Both the Black Pope and the White Pope aren't of papal bloodline. They are both commoners. These Egyptian Ptolemaic dynasty rulers are in full control of the Company of Jesus, High Great Council of Ten, and the Black Pope. This is some good info on the Black Pope. The Black Pope, superior Jesuit general, the president of the world, speaks at Loyola Military Fortress University in his unratified 14th Amendment, Little Rome, D.C., United States Corporation. A corporation under international maritime admiralty law, uniform commercial code, based upon Vatican canon law and perfected by the Roman Empire. He lies about his power. He's over the Pope as of 1814. He only serves and works with the shadow Jesuits, being the papal bloodline Orsinis, Breakspears, Aldobrandinis, Farneses, Somalias. Adolfo is not of papal bloodline. Some black popes have been. And this is my note. I hardly doubt the black and white popes are commoners. No way. Maybe lower in the chain under the 2 pillars of 13 each, real Illuminati families. But they are definitely of the bloodline. They wouldn't let anyone that high up be of unpure blood. Here's the former black pope, Adolphus Nicholas, and Pope Francis on the left, and with current black pope, Arturo Sosa. The next in power beneath the Jesuits is the Bourbon, King Juan Carlos of Spain, the Roman monarch of the world, the King of Jerusalem, and SMOM, I don't know what that stands for, military navigator. This is the true world's power system right now. Adolfo serves as a military general, protecting the Zoroastrianism and Mithraism mystery schools. The Jesuits were created by the papal bloodline Farnese during the reign of Farnese Pope Paul III. Loyola was commissioned by Alessandro Cardinal Farnese. The Borgia crime family created the Jesuits. So they must both have, because they just said Farnese did and then the Borgia did. Here is King Juan Carlos, who abdicated the throne as of 2014, and his son taking over, Prince Felipe. After the terrible reign of Pope Alexander VI, the Romans were disgusted with the Spanish and vowed that there would never be another Spanish pope. This animosity towards the Spanish was further aggravated by the sack of Rome in 1527 in order to prevent the divorce of Henry VIII from Catherine of Aragon. The Borgia answer to this Spanish animosity was the creation of the Order of Jesuits, a quasi-religious military strike force whose members were totally dedicated to their Spanish leader, who bore the military title of general. Like the White Pope, the general is elected for life, and the Jesuit dynasty is a parallel or pseudo-papacy. Of course, the general is content to run the show from behind the scenes so as not to arouse the age-old Italian hatred for the Spanish. The Jesuits were officially founded in 1540 by Pope Paul III. Ignatius Loyola became their first general. Don Francis Borgia was the great-grandson of Pope Alexander VI and co-founder of the Jesuits. On his mother's side, he was descended from King Ferdinand of Aragon. For the past 500 years, the Spanish Inquisition has controlled the Vatican by means of the Jesuits. All the Jesuits answer to their general in Rome, and he in turn is content to run the show from behind the scenes without any publicity or public acclaim so as not to arouse the age-old Italian hostility to the Spanish. All controlled through the Jesuit order and their Knights of Malta and Teutonic Knights, all based in missile-protected Borgo Santo Spirito in Rome. Conclusion. Rosette. So I hope we made it easier to see who the real players are and what their allegiances are. They are all connected to the Vatican, and they are Jewish. They are all the synagogue of Satan. I show this picture a lot because it's so telling. The black and white popes. The front popes, just like the front Illuminati that we are so familiar with. The public faces. And these two wearing yarmulkes. And yes, they're doing a Masonic handshake. In addition, as you saw, many of these families have had long-standing feuds. They try to smooth things over by intermarrying. And we saw a lot of that going on, too, but I don't think they're as happy and unified in their great work as they would like to seem. You see, the path of Lucifer is one of treachery, backstabbing, shady dealings. You can never fully trust anyone, even your close associates. They live a life of fear. Here are 3 examples of the bloodlines intermarrying. We have James Rothschild and Nikki Hilton. And Mark Mezvinsky and Chelsea Clinton. He is a Jewish investment banker who worked for Goldman Sachs. And don't forget Ivanka Trump and Jewish Jared Kushner. Kushner is a senior advisor to Trump and CEO of Kushner Companies, located at 666 Fifth Avenue. Cracker WV. This is a family tree that must be ripped up at the roots. Chopping at the leaves and branches isn't going to solve this problem and eliminate this evil from this planet or plane. We don't even have to kill them. They will die anyways because they are so coddled by their wealth. They will have no survival skills without their assets, servants, and money. We are the rightful owners of this world. These monsters despise humanity because their actions show them not to be human, although they occupy a human body. They hate the human race, which is obvious via their actions against it. They have no soul because they sold it for material comforts. They are cold, calculated, hell-bent on immorality, exclusively self-serving, and only concerned with survival through control. They possess no empathy, compassion, sympathy, love, or any other positive human qualities. Their morals are the exact opposite of those other people feel, which are in line with the true advancement of the human race. They will do whatever necessary to complete their mission and plunder the people of this world for their own ends. Psychopathic murderers to the core. Nothing but a bunch of clowns we should laugh at for their illusion of power. Nothing but the Pied Piper who, once he loses his little hypnotic flute, will immediately be seen not as the Illuminati, but the Illusionati. They're really nothing but a bunch of cowards who are deathly afraid of us, which is why they need to try so desperately to control our perspectives on pretty much everything. It's their greatest strength and their most glaring weakness. Psychological manipulation can only go so far before the cord is cut. I want to end with the parable of the wheat and the tares. Matthew 13:24-30. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servants said to him, Do you want us then to go and gather them up? But he said, No, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, First gather together the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Be the wheat.
We are truthers. We do not take shit from mockingbirds.
You should have expected us.
You know what spreads faster than any virus? It's fear. And when it comes to fear, you can either forget everything and run. I say or you can face everything and rise. I believe. And let me tell you what I believe in. I believe that. I believe we will face everything and rise. We will win. It's not how you fall, it's how you get back up. And what don't kill us make us stronger, boy. Get that love, take a swing at us. You better hit hard, cause when we swing back, it's like, oh God, it's time to knuckle up and fight hard. Now let's all buckle up and fight hard. Que Dios bendiga a toda tu familia, mi amigo, se parta manguito, vamos a darle duro este video. Say with me, I believe, say with me. But we gon' win the war. I'm from the bottom, I'm that uncut, real raw. When things get tough, that's when we show up. That's when we show out. That's when we show y'all. It's time to knuckle up